You have been taught to look outward for power, to strive to control, to possess, to earn your worth through effort and chase fulfillment through things just out of reach. But in truth, power has never lived in the outer world. It hums in the quiet between your breaths. It pulses in the stillness behind your thoughts. And the ancient ones, keepers of mysteries lost beneath desert sands, knew this well. Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe of the gods, did not shout to be heard. He whispered, in dreams, in symbols, in echoes that moved through stone temples and stirred the hearts of those ready to remember. He taught not by conquest, but by stillness, not by answers, but by questions that drew the soul inward, like water pulled to the moon. The modern world is loud, filled with blinking lights and opinions shouted across time zones. We are surrounded always by messages telling us who to be, what to want, and how to heal. But beneath all this noise, there is an older voice, quieter, more ancient than language, that says everything you seek is already within you. You were born with the blueprint of the cosmos folded into your bones. The stars echo in your cells. The same patterns that govern galaxies also hum through your bloodstream. But you've forgotten. Not by fault, but by design. Forgetting is part of the journey. For in forgetting, we are given the gift of remembering, of reawakening to a truth so profound it doesn't shout, but stirs the heart into a deeper beat. There was a time when temples were not buildings, but bodies. When priests and priestesses walked not in robes of hierarchy, but in the humility of knowing they served the rhythm of the universe. And the greatest among them were not those who controlled, but those who surrendered, who listened, who watched the breath as if it were scripture, who meditated on silence like a scroll of divine wisdom. Let me offer you an image. Imagine the Nile not as a river of water, but of thought. It flows endlessly, carving the landscape of your mind. When left unchecked, it floods, washing over your clarity, drowning your peace. But when harnessed with reverence, with rhythm, it becomes life-giving. You are that river. You are the watcher of it. You are also the ground it nourishes. Thoth taught this through the emerald tablets. As the river of mind flows, so flows the world. Pause now. Feel the breath enter you, not as air, but as the word, as the unseen made seen. Your breath is the same breath that moved through the nostrils of the first man. It is the bridge between your thoughts and the world they shape. Think of a child who believes in magic. Their world responds to them. They speak to the moon, and the moon winks back. They believe a stuffed lion guards their dreams, and so it does. This is not naivety. This is original knowing. And it is we, in our so-called adulthood, who have fallen asleep. What Thoth preserved in sacred geometry and encrypted tablets was not a religion. It was not a system. It was remembrance of sovereignty, of unity, of the silent agreement between mind and matter, that all things respond to the inner tone we carry. That power is not something we wield like a sword. It is something we attune to like a song. So ask yourself, what frequency are you singing in silence? What prayer does your posture whisper when no one is watching? Where do your eyes rest? When you think you are not being seen, begin there, in that stillness, in that remembering, in that simple miracle that you are already whole. All is mind. 3 small words, a quiet revolution, etched in the Kybalion like a doorway left ajar, inviting the seeker to step through, not into another world, but into the one they forgot they were creating. All is mind. The universe is mental. This is the first principle of Hermetic philosophy, and it is not to be read as metaphor. It is literal, not metaphorical in the poetic sense, but metaphysical in the most profound sense. The universe, your universe, is shaped, sustained, and stirred into motion by the power of consciousness. Not distant stars, nor fate nor gods playing dice with your soul, but you. You the observer. You the imaginer. You the silent architect of worlds unseen. In the quantum field, this principle echoes. Observation collapses possibility into form. Until witnessed, a particle is a cloud of potentials. But once you look, it becomes. In this way, physics catches up to ancient magic. Thought becomes thing. Attention becomes creation. And reality, it listens. Thoth taught that the spoken word holds creative power not because of its volume, but because of its intention. In hieroglyphs, sound was sacred geometry. Each symbol, a vibration. Each vibration, a command. Not control, but coherence. Alignment with the divine order already present. And what ancient priests once chanted into being, you now think into form, every hour of every day. Have you noticed the shape of your thoughts lately? Not the ones you voice, but the ones that whisper behind your eyes when you wake. The ones you believe without question. I am not enough. I am too late. I am separate. I must try harder. These are not facts. They are incantations, repeated spells that summon the very world you long to escape. Mentalism invites you to become the magician again, not by pretending to cast, but by remembering you always were. Picture this. A man sits in traffic clenching his fists, heart-pounding rage, building like a storm behind his teeth. He curses the cars, the clock, the city. But what he doesn't see is the mirror, that the chaos before him reflects the chaos within him, that every honk is the echo of his own unspoken unrest. Now, imagine another man in that same traffic. He watches the sky instead. He breathes. He notices the dance of movement, the small kindness of a stranger who lets someone merge. He remembers that nothing is happening to him. Everything is arising from him. His peace becomes a ripple that softens the air around him. Same outer scene, different mind behind the lens, different universe unfolding. This is the art of mental alchemy. To shift not the world, but the self that sees it. And it is not always easy. No, this is not about fake smiles and empty affirmations. It is not bypassing real pain or pretending rainbows out of despair. This is the deeper work, the sacred work, the moment when you feel the sting of failure and still say, I am not broken, I am becoming. The moment when you witness fear rising and choose not to run, but to breathe, to bless it, to ask what it came to teach. This is how thought becomes temple, how mind becomes sanctuary, how the architect sits down with their own blueprints and says, I see now, I remember. So ask yourself, what beliefs shape your days like scaffolding unseen? What stories do you repeat? And what futures do they forecast? What sacred thought could you choose instead? Begin with one, a thought not born from fear, but from presence. Something like I am willing, I am listening, I am light learning its own name. Watch what arises in its wake. As above, so below. As within, so without. The third Hermetic principle, the law of correspondence, is not an idea to merely ponder, but a mirror to live by. It does not point outward to the stars, nor downward to the roots, but inward, always inward. It reminds us that life is not happening to us, but through us, that every person, every challenge, every ripple in our environment is a reflection of something gestating in the unseen chambers of our mind and heart. This law is not punitive, it is illuminating. It does not blame, but reveals. To walk with it is to become a sacred detective of your own reality. When the same arguments echo in different relationships, when patterns of lack or betrayal return in new costumes, when joy feels just out of reach, look not for the villain. Look for the vibration, the frequency within you that is being asked to rise. Correspondence tells us if you want to change the outer, change the inner. If you want peace in the world, begin with the war in your thoughts. If you want abundance, heal the fracture in your receiving. If you long for sacred love, become the sacred within yourself. Imagine standing before a pond at dawn. You see your reflection calm and whole. Then a breeze stirs and ripples distort the image. The face appears broken, but only because the water moves. You do not reach into the pond to rearrange your features. You still the surface. You quiet the air. So it is with your life. When circumstances swirl or relationships fracture, still yourself first. Attend to the movement within. The outer world is the water, your consciousness, the wind. There was once a woman who feared abandonment. Every partner, every friend eventually left. It became her story, her sorrow. But beneath the surface was a deeper truth. She had abandoned herself long before they ever did. In the name of approval, in the name of fitting in the hope that if she just gave enough, they would stay. When she began to listen, not to the noise, but to the ache beneath it, she found the echo of a little girl who had been taught to write her needs. She began to speak with her, to hold her, to trust her voice. And slowly the world shifted. Not because she forced it to, but because the image in the pond had changed. This is not magic. It is law. The same way a seed becomes a tree, the same way sound becomes music, the inner always births the outer. And yes, this means responsibility, but not in the heavy, shame-filled way you've been taught. This responsibility is holy. It is the privilege of a creator waking up to their canvas. It is the power of knowing I am not a victim of the story. I am the storyteller, the dreamer, the hand that moves the pen. So, what is your life mirroring to you now? Where does the world speak in symbols, nudging you gently back to center? What in your outer experience carries the echo of your inner belief? These questions are not to torment you. They are invitations to realign, to reattune, to become a conscious participant in your becoming. And if the answer hurts, if what you see is difficult, be tender. This is not about judgment. It is about light. It is about meeting yourself with the compassion you've long given others and turning that same warmth inward. Thoth knew that the body itself was a tablet of correspondence, that each organ, each ache, each pulse mirrored emotional truths waiting to be seen. The eyes reveal what we're unwilling to look at. The throat holds the unsaid. The back carries the weight of unspoken burdens. To listen to the body is to hear the soul whispering beneath skin and sinew. And so, with this principle alive in you, walk into your life differently, not as a reactor, but as a reader of signs, a lover of metaphor, a sacred gardener tending the soil of thought, knowing that what blooms above must first grow below. Say to yourself, I am willing to see. I am willing to feel. I am willing to soften what is hard and listen to what repeats. This is the true magic of the alchemist, not to escape reality, but to enter it fully and find the divine hidden in plain view. All things move. All things rise and fall. This is the rhythm of life, the pulse beneath existence. The Hermetic principle of polarity tells us that everything has its pair, light and shadow, joy and sorrow, expansion and contraction. Rhythm teaches us that these opposites dance not in chaos, but in harmony. Every swing of the pendulum is precise. Every peak echoes a valley. There is no permanence, only motion. And within this motion lies the sacred art of transmutation. To resist the rhythm is to suffer it, but to move with it, that is alchemy. When you find yourself on a high filled with clarity or joy, you may wish to cling, to hold on to that state forever. And when you fall into the dark, into grief or uncertainty, you may despair, believing it permanent. But both are illusions. What is born must die. What dies must be reborn. The ancients did not fear this. They revered it. In the temples of Egypt, initiates learned not only how to read the stars, but how to read their own seasons. To recognize that sorrow was not a punishment, it was a rite of passage. That joy was not a reward, but a breath between initiations. Imagine your life as a tide. You are not the wave crashing or receding. You are the ocean steady beneath the surface. When you remember this, you become the observer once more, not aloof, but anchored. Not bypassing your experience, but infusing it with wisdom. A young man loses his job. The world tells him he has failed. He feels the sting of it, the shame, the uncertainty. But instead of running, he leans in. He breathes. He allows the descent. He journals. He walks without headphones. He notices the stories his mind spins and chooses not to believe all of them. Weeks pass. The darkness lingers, but slowly a new idea stirs in him. A spark, an old dream, long buried beneath duty, begins to rise. He enrolls in a course. He reaches out to an old friend. The rhythm turns, not by force, but by surrender. This is polarity in action. The swing from loss to creation, from descent to rising. And through it all, he remained not broken, but transformed. The key is this: you cannot ascend without first descending. You cannot love fully until you have wept fully. You cannot know the light you are until you face the shadows you carry. This is not spiritual punishment. It is spiritual precision. The deeper your sorrow carves into your being, said the poet Khalil Gibran, the more joy you can contain. So, when pain comes, welcome it, not as an enemy, but as a sacred rhythm teacher. Ask it, what polarity do you call me into? What have I avoided feeling that now longs to be seen? How can I lean into this without drowning in it? This is emotional sovereignty. Not being immune to the world, but being in relationship with it. Choosing to surf the waves rather than be crushed by them. Choosing to alchemize instead of resist. Thoth in his wisdom spoke not of fleeing duality, but of mastering it, of seeing both poles as expressions of the one mind. Heat and cold are not separate, they are degrees of the same energy. So are love and fear. When you understand this, you stop seeing life in absolutes. You begin to see the spectrum. And in the spectrum, you find your power. Your sadness is not a failure. It is the echo of your capacity to feel. Your doubt is not a flaw. It is the threshold of faith. Your anger is not wrong. It is fire misplaced, asking to be directed. You are the alchemist. The rhythm will swing. The poles will call. But you steady in your awareness, sacred in your stillness, you can transmute. With breath, with intention, with the willingness to sit in the fire until it becomes light. So ask yourself, now, where in your life are you resisting the rhythm? What feeling have you judged instead of listened to? What polarity are you ready to embrace, not as a burden, but as a bridge? Say it aloud if you can. I ride the rhythm. I honor the polarity. I am the still point within the swing. And so the alchemy begins. To live as Thoth lived is not to worship idols of the past, but to become a living tablet, an embodiment of wisdom, etched not in stone, but in the very rhythm of your breath, your choices, your being. You are the scribe, the spell, the script. The alchemist is not one who escapes life, but one who enters it fully, who transfigures the mundane into the miraculous, who sees divinity in every detail, who walks slowly, not because they lack direction, but because each step is a prayer. You've been taught that knowledge is power. But Thoth whispers, knowledge is potential. It is wisdom knowledge in motion that becomes sacred. And so the fifth Hermetic principle, cause and effect, invites you now to awaken, not as a seeker, but as a source. To stop tracing back the lines of fate and begin writing new ones from within. Every effect has its cause. Every ripple a stone. Every outcome a seed. And the greatest mystery is this: you are both the stone and the water, the seed and the soil, the cause and the effect. When you wake with dread and feel disconnected, it is not simply life happening. It is an invitation to trace the line inward. What thoughts seeded this morning? What inner weather did I create last night with my attention, my media, my intention? A woman stares at the ceiling each night plagued by anxiety. She lights candles, takes supplements, even prays. But no rest comes. One night, instead of pushing it away, she asks, "What am I feeding before I sleep?" And she notices a habit of scrolling endless fears consuming emotional storms not her own. She begins a new ritual, a simple journal, a short mantra, a breath of gratitude, and slowly her nights change. Not because the world changed, but because she reclaimed the causal realm her mind. To live this way is to reclaim the throne within, to remember that no choice is small, no word is without consequence, no moment is meaningless. You brush your teeth in silence. This too is a ritual. You speak to a stranger with kindness. This too ripples outward. You notice a thought of self-hatred and instead whisper, "Not today, my love. Not again." This too reshapes the world. You become the emerald tablet, the bridge between inner and outer, heaven and earth. You become the initiator, not the initiated, the one who no longer waits for signs but realizes you are the sign. The ancients carved glyphs into temple walls, not for decoration, but as maps, not for tourists, but for time travelers of consciousness. And each glyph pointed inward. Each symbol said, "Remember. Remember the laws. Live them. Embody them. Become them." And so now you are asked the same, to be the stillness in the storm, the calm in the chaos, the frequency of coherence in a world of noise. Not to be perfect, not to escape hardship, but to meet it differently, with awareness, with alignment, with the subtle but sovereign knowing that you are the cause now, that nothing just happens in your world anymore, that each event is a message and you are the translator. This does not make you God in arrogance, but in essence. For what is God but the breath behind the breath, the observer behind the eye, the silence behind the word? And you, beloved, are all of these. So now, as the spiral completes, ask not for more tools. You have them. The laws are within you. The temple is within you. The awakening has already begun. The question now is simple. Will you live as the emerald tablet? Will you write your days in gold, not by wealth, but by wonder? Will you meet each moment as both the mystery and the key? If yes, then walk on, lightly, firmly, like a monk who remembers his wings. For you are not here to learn these truths. You are here to remember you are them. You came seeking power and found presence. You came chasing answers and found questions older than time whispering through your bones like a forgotten melody. The emerald tablet is not a relic. It is your reflection. The laws of Hermetic wisdom are not abstract. They are invitations. And the alchemist you seek, you have always been. Remember this. You are not behind. You are not broken. The path winds only to bring you deeper into your own soul's remembering. Let your thoughts be spells of peace. Let your emotions be the compass of the heart. Let your life become a quiet revolution of alignment, rhythm, and radiant sovereignty. You do not need to be louder to be heard. You need only be truer, simpler, still. So close your eyes now. Let these words settle like golden dust across your spirit, and ask yourself gently, what kind of world shall I now choose to create? You are the dreamer, the dream, and the dawn. If these words stirred something ancient in you, an echo, a knowing, then you are not alone. Share your light, speak your truth, awaken others simply by being awake. And if you'd like to journey further, subscribe. Stay close. We are remembering together.